Dear A Court of Thorns and Roses, it's been a while since we crossed paths. I still remember the day I laid my eyes on you at the bookstore, the day I brought you home with me. Somehow, I was scared of browsing your pages. My gut feeling was telling me that you were no good, and because of that, almost a month passed before I decided to listen to what you had to say. Or better, Google Random Number Generator decided that for me. But I digress. And when I finished reading your story, I realized something. That I was right. That you were, indeed, a piece of trash. The bold and the beautiful, but in book format. So I decided to trash you in a video, and with hindsight, I want to apologize. Yes, because my experience brought me to the realization that once you reach the bottom of the barrel, you can always scrape it. The encounter with this other romantasy made me understand that you're actually not that bad, that the world has seen worse. So, with that in mind, I hope we can be friends again, and I hope we can discover more trashy books together. Yours truly, 1T1. Hello and welcome back to the Regretful Penguin. I'm 1T1 and today is the turn of another book sensation, a romantasy which goes by the cheesy title Once Upon a Broken Heart. Oh man, this was something. As I mentioned, I thought ACOTAR was bad, but apparently I'm as naive as the female protagonist of this novel, so joke's on me. If you like this video, don't be an amarantha, click on the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. This video is a reflection of my own opinions, so please take it with a grain of salt. Let's jump right into it. There will be spoilers, but honestly, I'm not sure these books are worth being saved from spoilers. In any case, you know it in advance, so you can decide whether you want to watch the video now or read the book and come later. No problem there. Once Upon a Broken Heart was written by author Stephanie Garber, who is also the author of the Caraval series. The novel was first published in the UK in 2021 by Hodder and Stoughton, and in the US in 2021 by Flatiron Books. It holds an average of 4.08 based on almost 290,000 ratings. If I had to compare this book to food, it would be like a vanilla cupcake with white chocolate American buttercream. Basically a sugar bomb. Every aspect of the story is coated with a veil of powdered sugar, from the characters to the environment to the clothes. The story is set in a fictional world divided into 5 empires, but we only have experience of 2 of them so far. There's a beautiful map of the North, which is called the Magnificent North, at the beginning of the book, and along with the cover, it's the only beautiful thing of the novel in my opinion. Okay, I'm exaggerating actually. I think there are other good aspects in this novel, but we will go through them a bit later. The religious system of this world is characterized by the presence of 16 magical figures called fates. Each fate has a different function, aspect and power, but all of them are actually human-like, at least in appearance. So having a map of the Magnificent North, the story of course begins in the south. The Southern Empire is called the Meridian Empire, and that's where we meet our protagonist, the 17-year-old Evangeline Fox, thus making this novel a young adult romantasy. As any respectable member of this narrative genre, Evangeline is an orphan of both parents. I mean, they have lost or they lose a parent at some point, it's kind of inevitable. Her mother came from the Magnificent North and used to tell her all the stories and legends from that place, so that Evangeline basically lives in a constant state of, I don't know, naivety, I guess? But anyway, her father remarried to Agnes Tourmaline, which is your classic stereotypical Cinderella stepmother. She hates Evangeline and does nothing to hide it. Then we have Marisol Tourmaline, her stepsister, who Evangeline keeps reminding us that she's a good and benevolent stepsister and is far from her mother in character. It sounds more like she's trying to convince herself than anything, but suit yourself, Evie. Evangeline takes care of her late father's antiques shop. Is this info useful? Yes and no. Yes, because she can recognize magical objects because of her experience among rarities. No, because aside from this function, it doesn't really serve any purpose. The novel begins with an extract from a newspaper called the Whisper Gazette with the news about the disappearance of the door of the Church of the Prince of Broken Hearts. I made it. Who's one of the 16 fates. I kindly remind you that I'm not making this shit up, it's all ink on paper and poor trees died for this and my poor wallet paid for this. But anyway, it goes without saying this door has the shape of one half of a broken heart and it appears in front of Evangeline's shop. Where else? Otherwise, I don't know. She's curious, so she tries to open it, but the door was like, listen, I don't think this is a good idea. Are you sure? It's not recommendable to encounter a fate. Evangeline knows that good manners will bring you forward in life, so she says, please let me in, and the door magically opens. She will open many doors, that I can say. What I haven't mentioned yet is the reason why Evangeline wants to pray to the Prince of Hearts, and that's because she's herself broken-hearted. Her love interest, who goes by the name of Luke Navarro, suddenly decided to marry her stepsister Marisol, ignoring their ongoing love story. Evangeline is convinced that Luke has been cursed by Marisol or Agnes, so she makes a blood vow to hinder the wedding between the two. At this point, one figure who was performing self-flagellation in the back of the church comes forward and reveals to be the Prince of Hearts himself, who for convenience we'll call Jax because that's his birth name apparently. It's not a mistake in my pronunciation, there's actually an S at the end of Jack, so yeah, he's called Jax. Jax is immediately the most arrogant prick, but of course handsome, 7 feet tall, sculptured body, etc, etc, calls Evangeline pet, subsequently Little Fox because of her surname I guess, and challenges Evangeline to do something in exchange for his help in stopping the wedding. He wants her to kiss 3 guys. She be like, but I only kiss Luke. He be like, I don't care. And then she be like, do little pecks count? Evangeline, come on, you seriously think pecks count? We're in a modern romantasy. If there isn't at least 3 meters of tongue down your throat, it's nothing we want to read about, right? For the sake of Luke, or of herself as I prefer thinking, Evangeline accepts the deal, so Jax produces 3 scars on her wrist, which will disappear every time she makes out with somebody of Jax's choice. The scars have all the shape of a broken heart. Fuck, I mean, I understand that the title is Once Upon a Broken Heart and not Once Upon a Broken Pancreas or Once Upon a Broken Lung, but geez, not everything needs to be branded like that. Jesus Christ. Anyway, I don't want to lose my lungs, so let's move on. Anyway, Jax does the deal and stops the wedding, but he doesn't say how. So Evangeline finds out to her dismay that everybody has been turned to stone, Luke and Marisol included. How can I change the situation? I didn't want this. Jax says that somebody has to be turned to stone, so our protagonist sees a brass goblet with a potion and the message, don't drink me. And what does Evie do? She drinks it and turns to stone. Also, I will call her Evie from time to time. It's not an official nickname, but I don't feel like saying the whole name every time, so we will go with that. The thing I noticed by now, and it's only very few chapters in the novel, is that the narration is a bit all over the place and the details are just thrown there as fillers. I can't make much out of what I'm reading, but let's move on. Evangeline stays 6 weeks in Stone before she gets rescued by another fate called Poison, the Poisoner. Wow. Who's the same guy that produced the potion she wasn't supposed to drink. She discovers that while she was petrified, there had been an event called the Week of Terror, in which the Fates were freed from the Deck of Destiny, basically a deck of tarot cards, but being beaten, they were exiled from the Meridian Empire and confined in the north. Evangeline's history of sacrifice and selflessness, yeah, sure, was told among the people of the Empire, and now everybody wants to marry her, whereas Marisol got the nickname Cursed Bride because Luke was first turned to stone, then was attacked by a wolf, and subsequently disappeared. What the fuck is this? In basically one chapter we get an information overload. I understand that details are nice, I like details, but they need to be introduced gradually in the story. Otherwise the result will be a confusing mess like this case. Jesus Christ. So anyway, Evangeline loses her antiques shop and her stepmother spreads the rumor that she's accepting applications for possible suitors. And more or less at this point we learn of the Ballad of the Archer and the Fox, a cursed tale about an archer who falls in love with a girl who could transform into a fox, but then their love was cursed because the archer was induced to shoot arrows at the fox. The story was cursed because of unknown reasons. In this world, nobody could tell the end of the tales, not even other tales, so yeah, or not even prophecies, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, Evangeline receives a message directly from the Empress of the Meridian Empire. Now, this is when I got pissed off. The Empress is Scarlet Dragna, who I learned is the protagonist of Caraval. I can get behind the fact that two stories can coexist in the same universe, but I don't think that Scarlet was Empress at the beginning of Caraval, so what the fuck? If I wanted to read Caraval, now I can live happily without doing it. Okay, why am I mad? I should be happy to spare me a new series. Okay, so a bit of context. How did Scarlet ascend to the throne? For those who haven't read Caraval like myself. So, during the Week of Terror, the Fates killed the previous emperor, the so-called... Jesus. His royal handsomeness. No, I didn't make this up. I wish this was the truth, but the guy is really called like that. These books will get me a one-way ticket to the world. Anyway, Scarlet and her sister Donatella beat the Fates and send them in exile and get the throne of the Meridian Empire. Fun fact, in the Italian translation of Caraval, the protagonist is called Rossella, which is the direct equivalent of the name Scarlet, just because things weren't exaggerated enough in the English version. In the Italian translation, they also went for like a rhyme, so we have two sisters that rhyme together, Rossella and Donatella. Yeah, just to be cheesy like that. Scarlet invites Evangeline for a tea with piping pretty pink steam at 2 o'clock at her court to discuss a job opportunity. She gets on a sky carriage. Now you get what I mean when I say that this book is a sugar bomb. Not even My Little Pony is this sugary, for fuck's sake. Basically, the Empress wants to send Evangeline to the Magnificent North as representative of the Meridian Empire at an event called Nocte Neverending, in which the Prince of the Magnificent North, Prince Apollo, will get to know and choose his bride-to-be. Our foxy lady accepts and decides to bring Marisol along. We embark with them on a journey to the Magnificent North on a boat, to be precise, because the Magnificent North and the Meridian Empire are separated by a sea. Evangeline is really quick in forgetting Luke because she starts fantasizing about becoming the bride of Prince Apollo, so yeah, just like that, Luke becomes a long-lost memory. All the fuss she made to get Luke back, all the problems she caused, and then this. Please help me go through this. I improvise myself singer. Evangeline takes part in the soiree preceding the Nocte Neverending, in which she meets 3 people. One is Ariel Lala Lagrimas. Her stupid surname, which means tears, is not random, and we will see why. Lala spills the tea on Jax and tells Evangeline that Jax had something with a princess from the south, which later reveals to be Princess Donatella, and that's why he keeps himself far from the Meridian Empire. I don't know if I read the Caraval series, but I haven't, so... And the second is, of course, Prince Apollo, who is posing for a portrait in a rather unlikely position. The author cares to mention that when the weather is a bit hotter, he gets rid of his shirt and just hangs around with a naked torso. You know the difference between this detail about Prince Apollo and a pizza? I asked for the pizza. Okay, I have to say one thing that breaks this streak of handsome young boys. Prince Apollo is later described as not as handsome as Jax, but somehow interesting, so I guess that's a novelty, since literally any character from these romances or romanticises comes straight out of a catwalk or something. The third person is, of course, Jax, who's surprised to see her there, apparently. So the first person Evangeline has to kiss for Jax is Prince Apollo. Jax smears her lips with dark red blood glittered with impossible flecks of gold, whatever that means. I noticed the author introduces colors I've never heard of, like fairy green or arresting blue. I've even read romantic blue. I don't know what that is. If anybody knows, please enlighten me in the comments. So Evangeline kisses Apollo, comments that Apollo kisses better than Luke and is more passionate. I guess he wants to eggplant her, but Jax brings her out of the party. End of the chapter. Bye. I'd like to take a minute to explain something. I'm making an account of things that happen in the novel because honestly, there's not much else I can say or analyze. The characters have the depth of a sheet of paper. What you see is what you get. There's no extra layer, there's no development. Evangeline, but also the other characters are the same throughout the story, so I'm not even sure calling them characters will be appropriate, but anyway, there will be time to discuss that. Now, the Nocte Neverending comes, and it's that time when Prince Apollo chooses his bride. Evie attends with Marisol. Before going, they talk about the future and how this event may be a turning point in both of their lives. Then Marisol trips over Evie's dress and tears one of the flowers, and Evie suspects for a nanosecond that Marisol may have done it on purpose. But yeah. I imagine Evie's dress as the same dress worn by Danny Ardor in the last scene of Midsommar, but okay, I'll quit mentioning Midsommar. It's just that it's an amazing horror movie and everybody should watch it instead of reading trashy books. But anyway, this doubt leads Evie to check Marisol's room for evidence, and there she finds a cookbook called Recipes of the Ancient North. This cookbook later reveals to be as much of a cookbook as Walter White may be called Cook himself. Evie and Marisol leave for the Nocte Neverending. When they get there, Marisol disappears with Jax. Evie learns that there is a special version of chess called, my god, the kissing chess. Nobody wins until two of the human pieces on the checkerboard decide to kiss and tie each other for life. What? Do I have to go through the other books as well? Please tell me I don't, for the love of me. I don't even think this kissing chess is something that will appear later in the series as, I don't know, helping to, like the chess in Harry Potter, serves as foreshadowing for one of the trials on the way to the Philosopher's Stone. Let's move on, I'm getting tired here. Apollo asks Evie to marry him, but there's something wrong with it in her opinion. She moves to Wolf Hall, the royal palace, and the next chapters are just an account of useless things like the wedding gown, which is a ridiculously pompous gown with wings or something, the bath in jewels. Yes, Apollo prepares a jewel bath for Evangeline. A bubble bath wasn't enough for him. And of course, Apollo, right in his mind as he is, gets a tattoo on his chest. A heart formed by two swords and the name Evangeline inside of it. Evangeline understands that Apollo is bewitched because of course he's bewitched. Nobody right in their mind would behave like that. So she asks Jax to lift the enchantment. Jax doesn't want to because he needs Evangeline to marry Apollo. We don't know why just yet, but at least it will be revealed later. So Jax says first we need to acquire something. So they go to the Fortuna Castle where Tabitha Fortuna resides, and Jax asks Evangeline to kiss Tabitha on the cheek, and that counts as one of the 3 kisses. I guess the tongue doesn't matter anymore. This puts Tabitha under a spell. Jax wants her to enter the vault, and Evangeline commands Tabitha to open the vault, and then Tabitha tells Evangeline that she might be part of the prophecy to open the Valerie Arch, an arch created by the Valor family, the once regents of the magnificent north, which is supposed to lead to a magic place called Valerie. Part of the prophecy says that a peasant princess crowned in rose and gold will marry a prince. Now Evangeline's hair is rose blonde, so he has pink hair and she'll get the golden crown once she marries Apollo. I don't know if the golden thing is referring to the blonde hair or the crown, but yeah. Once she marries Apollo, she will get her crown. Apollo's a prince, so that explains why he wants Evie to marry Apollo. Evie marries Apollo, but the spell is still there, so she talks once again with Jax, who says, "You won't do him a favor if you solve the enchantment." And she answers, "I don't want to trick people. I don't really believe Evie's this little lamb, this abnegating girl she wants to look like, but okay, she's not in love with Apollo, but hopes she will be, but at the same time she wasn't in love with Luke, so girl, why the hell did you do all this mess?" Anyway, Jax smears some of the blood on her lips and tells her that she needs to kiss him before dawn, otherwise nothing. She just needs to kiss him before dawn. I forgot to mention that in this overload of details, Apollo has a brother he doesn't get along with called Tiberius, I don't know, who lives in Walhall but is secluded or something. Anyway, he dances with Evangeline and she asks him that as a wedding gift she wants them to make peace because she needs to keep this little lamb facade throughout as if. And now I will sum up the things that happen from here because this review is going to last 2 days if I tell everything that happens, which is also nothing happening because this is the perk of this book. There are many chapters, they are super detailed, but nothing happens literally, and it's all a mess. Maybe I'm just confused, I don't know. But anyway, Evangeline spends her wedding night with Apollo, she kisses him, but before she drinks a salty wine to loosen up, she starts bawling uncontrollably while Apollo collapses on the bed unconscious. The guards try to stop her, but Jax catches her and brings her out of the castle. Jax reveals that her kisses were never enchanted, so she didn't kill Apollo. He brings her to Lala, who's actually a fate, the unwed bride, who's destined to have no meaningful romantic relationship and whose tears are a poison that makes you cry until you die. Saying this out loud is more revealing than reading it. Lala used to sell her tears and somebody must have bought them to poison the prince. Evangeline wants to go back to Walhall and question Tiberius, but of course Jax and Lala ask her if she's right in her mind. So Jax has this idea of visiting yet another fate called Chaos. Just because we need to add another magical species at random, Chaos is a vampire. What's a romantasy without vampires? I'm expecting vampires in the ACOTAR series as well, but I mean, if we think of how Farah was turned into a fairy, here we get Breaking Dawn, so I guess that counts already. Before leaving, Jax gives Evangeline a book of recipes and she realizes it's the same book that she found on Marisol's nightstand, so she remembers her, but the fates tell her that Marisol is no danger if she has that book, because that is not a cookbook, but rather a collection of dark magic recipes, so basically Marisol is a witch. Of course Evangeline still doubts that, after everything that happened. Can I say something? This forced naivety on Evangeline's side is getting on my nerves. You cannot possibly be this stupid. We're at 2/3 of the novel and this bitch hasn't grown yet. She's been traveling, she met people, she saw new places, she went through some shit, and yet it's the same innocent, and I mean innocent between 1,000 quotes, Evangeline we met in chapter 1. What the hell? Why? I don't mean that every figure needs to go through development, I don't demand that from a romantasy, but Jesus Christ, at least, the main character. Am I asking too much? Apparently. Let's move on. So, they get to Chaos, Jax advises Evie not to look him in the eyes, and what does Evangeline do? She looks him in the eyes, fortunately or not, depending if you're rooting for this dumb bitch. Chaos has a helm which blocks his fangs so he can't bite Evangeline. There's an arena in Chaos's den which functions for baby vampires to turn into full vampires. Under baby vampire, I mean those who were bitten but haven't fully turned into a vampire. In order to become one, they need to drink human blood before dawn, otherwise they have to go through the process again. Fun. Among these, there's Luke. He is in a cage and he starts pleading for freedom, and what does Evangeline do? She sets him free and she discovers that Luke is a baby vampire, so he attacks her, but Jax defends her and gets bitten. Now, Jax is pissed because he got vampire poison and he has blonde hair and not blue anymore, and he has to deal with a whiny Evangeline that keeps asking why he's angry at her. He has all the reasons to be angry, you stupid bitch. I still don't understand the nature of a fate, to be honest. honest. They have churches, so I guess they're treated like gods, but at the same time they are in flesh and bones, so they're vulnerable, but they shouldn't be vulnerable if they are gods. It doesn't matter, does it? So they stay in a cemetery and Jax is locked in a crypt or something to make the venom run off. How do they unlock the crypt? Evangeline pricks her finger with one of the spears of the gate and opens it with her blood. This fact leads Evangeline to think that she might be the key to Valerie Arch and leads me to think that the Magnificent North is free from tetanus. Because I imagined how safe it must be to prick yourself with the spear of a rusty gate. Please, don't do this at home. If you need to open a gate, use a key or something. In this moment, we learn about the history between Jax and Princess Donatella. She tried to push Jax out of a sky carriage, so Jax kissed her without her consent. Don't do that, kids! Don't kiss people without consent. And discovered that his kiss didn't kill her and his heart began to beat, but since Stella was pissed off, rightfully so, she planted the dagger into his heart and made it stop beating once again. And then Evangeline talks about Luke and how much he loves her in front of an unimpressed Jax, who basically says, sure, suit yourself. So she gets pissed and says, I wish I were the one who stabbed you. So Jax says, prove it, gives her the knife and then breaks the lock of the crypt. Evangeline is not like a believable character at all, I'm sorry. But anyway, Jax basically assaults Evangeline to reach for blood, but it's done and the venom runs off, so Jax turns back to normal, blue hair, everything, but he's exhausted, so they go back to Jack's apartment in Valorfell, which is the capital of the Magnificent North. Evangeline tries to brag a bit by saying that thank goodness she was there to help him. So he reveals that the reason why she's there is because Jax asked poison to save her and he asked the Empress to send her to the Nocte Neverending. While Jax is resting, Evie tries to find a way to break Tiberius's enchantment. Meanwhile, he married Marisol and Evie thinks her sister did something to him and make him tell the truth, but she can't find a solution. On the desk, she finds a set of Fortuna's fantastically flavored water, which are basically tiny flasks of different potions, and she drinks the one labeled as Curiosity, which tastes like cotton and safety pins. I mean, yum, who doesn't like that? Next time I'm in line for a crepe at the town fair, instead of Nutella and powdered sugar, I'll ask for cotton and safety pins. I mean, at least the jelly beans in Harry Potter made sense. Pushed by curiosity, Evangeline discovers 7 copies of the Ballad of the Archer and the Fox in Jack's library, and since she doesn't know how the story ends, she starts browsing the books, but she discovers that for one of the other reasons, it's physically impossible to read the end of the book because the tales are cursed and you cannot know the end of the tale, so that's why. The 7th book is disguised as a ballad, but it's actually this potion cookbook that she found in Marisol's room. She finds a recipe for a truth serum that she wants to give to Tiberius, but the ingredients are stupid as fuck. So, here's the list of the ingredients. Crushed bones of the dead or charred dragon skin, an honest pinch of earth, a handful of pure water, 7 drops of blood from a magical vein. So she picks a dead spider. It's not bones, but I guess you can make what you want in novels. Some shit from under her boots, her own blood since she works as a key, and snow because that way she can pick an actual handful, but I guess it's not pure water, but anyway. Also, I didn't mention that this potion, the truth serum, this drink has a special side effect. It makes you tell the truth. No shit, Sherlock. A truth serum that has telling truth as a side effect. Magnificent. So Evie goes back to Wolf Hall with the potions and she opens every door with her blood. She gets on a roll, I guess. She meets Marisol and has an encounter with her. She reveals about the pact with Jax to prevent their wedding, so Marisol starts screaming, guards! So Tiberius arrives and brings Evie to a dungeon to speak to her. Somehow Evie manages to have Tiberius drink her truth serum, so he confesses he's part of an organization called the Protectorate, in which there's also Tabitha Fortuna, which keeps the Valerie Arch closed. still have no clue what the fuck this Valerie Arch is. I mean, I know it's a gate to a magical world called Valerie, but what's in this world called Valerie? Yeah. So, Tiberius reveals that the Valerie Arch will be unlocked by a key conceived in the north and born in the south, both princess and peasant, who will be crowned in rose and gold. She will be wrongly accused and will be a fugitive, and only her blood will open the arch. So he's basically telling Evie's story. Tiberius confesses to have killed his brother because he actually wanted to kill Evie. They both cry because of their broken hearts. Yeah. Evie is still a princess, but she gets escorted to a crypt by a soldier where she finds Apollo's body and a girl named Phaedra, who is actually a fate. Phaedra explains that her power is that she can steal secrets from the dead, but that it didn't work with Apollo, so that means that Apollo is like hibernated or something. The only person who could do that, like come back from the hibernation, was Honora Valor, the first Queen of Valorfell and wife to Wulfric Valor. Evangeline tries to wake Apollo with a kiss, but it doesn't work. At this point, she makes her gears grind and finds out that this might have been Jack's plan all along, so Jax wants to open Valerie Arch, but we don't know why. And that's how the novel ends, with a door in Wolf Hall which was shut for centuries and suddenly starts opening. Jeez, we're done! What a fucking mess. What a concoction of useless details. This is like when I make vegetable broth or soup and I take basically any leftover veggie from my fridge. Jesus. Okay, an extra detail that I don't think the book made clear. If Jax orchestrated this thing, that means that the door of his church appeared in front of Evie's shop because he made it do that. But also, does he know everything? Because to pick Evangeline for his plan, not only did he have to know that Evangeline had rose gold hair, which is easily verified, but he also had to know that their parents were Marvin Gaying in the north 9 months prior to Evangeline's birth. So he's omniscient, but he's not immune to vampire venom. He can be stabbed, but he's a god or a demigod. I'm confused. It's better if we move on to the goods and bads of the novel. Okay, this novel is a mess, but I think it has some salvageable aspects. One of them is the cover of the UK edition. It's extra sweet, but I love magenta and glitters, so yeah. I just don't love them when they're putting words inside a book. Also, I love the map. It's beautifully designed with this dreamy flair to it, which is also the flair that the world building wants to convey. I think this is another good thing about Once Upon a Broken Heart. The world building is interesting. I like the polytheistic religious system as much as the Middle Ages fairy castle kind of setting. These little dragons making candies or something, really cute. One thing I have to give Garber is that she made me curious as to what happens from now on in the story, so today I ordered Ballad of Never After. Also, I guess I hate myself. I mean, I'm curious. I'm too curious to know. I'm not eager to overdose on details, but I'd like to know how the story goes on and what's also hiding behind the Valerie Arch. Also, another good thing of this novel is that chapters are really short, so you can read them really quickly. Okay, enough of good things. This novel is a mess. The story is not linear, but is like a roller coaster with 33 inversions one after the other. When you're done, either you pass, or you throw up, your whole breakfast, or have a headache. Every chapter, a new detail is added, but at the same time, nothing important happens. I don't know how to explain. I guess you have to read the book to understand fully what I mean. The basic idea is that Jax manipulates a girl to make a prophecy come true and open the gates to Valerie. Do we know what is in Valerie? Absolutely not, because the tales are all cursed and nobody knows how they end. But think about it. This is the same thing Dumbledore does with Harry Potter in the last 2 books. Actually, his whole life, but it becomes clear towards the end of the series with the prophecy appearing first in the Order of the Phoenix. He raised him to sacrifice him and beat Voldemort, right? The prophecy was also kinda easy. A boy born born at the end of July to people who fought against Voldemort, to whom Voldemort unknowingly and unwillingly transferred some of the powers, will be able to defeat him, and one of them must die at the end of the other, because neither of them can live while the other is also living. The prophecy in Once Upon a Broken Heart states that the key to the Valory Arch will be conceived in the north, which is hard to prove by my humble opinion, unless by north they mean her mother by extension, because Evie's mother came from the north, born in the south, born to poor parents, having rose blonde hair, being crowned a princess, so marry a prince, being wrongly accused, and thus being a fugitive, her willing blood opens doors. So you see that the requirements are very specific, and I don't know how many people are there whose willing blood can open doors. Another thing that bothered me were the coats of sugar that were these descriptions. Oh my goodness, between the piping pinky steam and Marisol's candied apricot dress with the sugary cream underskirt and the thick pearl belt, or the wings attached to Evie's wedding gown, please save me. Last, the characters are the flattest thing ever. Evangeline is a sheet of paper. She has this naivety which I'm not buying even for free. The novel tries to give her complexity by putting her between the feelings for Luke and the feelings for Apollo, but the truth is that the only important person for Evangeline is Evangeline. She stopped the wedding because of this heartache that she had, when in truth she simply didn't want to see her stepsister being the love interest of Luke, no matter what the reason was. She drank the potion because of the guilt she was feeling. She went to the Nocturne Neverending because she wanted a new life. And these are human things, okay? It's perfectly normal to have these feelings, to take care of yourself, to think of your business, but just be blunt about it. I don't buy her, oh, I'm a little innocent lamb mask. It's fucking annoying. I prefer when characters are openly flawed and don't try to hide their true colors. And that's it for today. I need to chug water. I cannot do it anymore. I don't feel like spending other words on Once Upon a Broken Heart. I don't have hard feelings against it. It was dumb, but I think it was conscious of that. Pretty much like it was for ACOTAR. Unlike another romantasy I've read which needs to go die in a dump fire with Credence and It Ends With Us. I'm sorry for Coho fans out there, I love you all, but no more Coho for me. This novel was bad, but it was an okay bad, a bearable bad, I guess. Let me know down in the comments if you know this novel, if you've read it, what you think of it and what not. If you liked the video and got so far in the video, be sure to click on the like button and to subscribe to the channel for more reviews. As usual, thank you so much for watching, be safe and take care of yourself. Ciao!